Legislators are back in Washington this week looking to pass a stopgap spending bill in order to avoid a partial government shutdown starting on Friday. The continuing resolution, or CR, under discussion would extend spending until December, as well as provide $12 billion in aid for Ukraine. Now, this sets up another funding fight after the election when accountability will again be 2 years away. So not a good way to do business. But joining me now to talk about this and more is Congressman Kevin Hern. He is a member of the House Ways and Means Committee. He represents Oklahoma's 1st Congressional District. Kevin, welcome back to the program.
Tony, it's great to be with you, and I want to personally thank you for your dedication to the Word. That's really special. And like you said, we need to be closer to God now than ever.
I mean, you see it every day with the policies that we're dealing with. It's the contrast between good and evil has become so clear. But unfortunately, just like we're talking about this funding bill, there are some things in here that are very problematic.
Well, when you look at, first of all, we got to ask ourselves, how did we even get here? We're 3 days from the government shutdown, and Nancy Pelosi has been in charge of the House of the Democrats for 4 years now. She's never produced a single budget, not one. That's a fact check. So often we hear people talk on news reports that talk about stuff that's just simply not true. That is a fact. And when you don't produce a budget, as all Americans knows, you're going to have a problem. And she's done it. And she said early on, you show me your budget and I'll show you your values. She has produced no budget, so therefore she has no values. And the values have been is just increased spending. I saw the lead in with Biden saying that he had cut the deficit. Oh, my goodness, we came out of a place where we didn't know what was going on with the pandemic. I would hope that we would cut it. If he did nothing, we were going to cut the deficit. And so here we are running up to the last minute with a continuing resolution that's just poured a lot of pork barrel in there. And what you'll see that's absent from that continuing resolution is any security of our southern border, any energy security, or anything to do with the inflation. It's more spending to go to Ukraine. It's more spending on things that are special interest for the Democrats. And the American people are fed up with this. That's for certain.
Now, I want to get to the process and what people should be looking for the next 72 hours. But I want to go back to something you said, because I'm glad you brought it up, because I like, you're on the Ways and Means Committee. You work with the budgets. The president has been saying this. I've reduced the deficit. We've cut the deficit by $1 trillion. Well, you made the point, and I think people need to understand, yes, we had the emergency spending as a result of the government shutdown of everything because of COVID, and so as a result, they had to spend that money. So, as you said, it would be anticipated that that one-time emergency spending would not become normal, but they've actually rolled a lot of that into normal spending.
They have. If you go back and look under President Trump and the Democrats, Republicans, it was the one time that everybody came together to try to save the nation. And we did the American Rescue Plan back with CARES Act to rescue America because we weren't sure where we were going to go. And it was a tragedy what happened, 1 million lives lost. We saw President Trump work on Operation Warp Speed, a lot of money spent on that. And he did a lot of great things under his leadership. And Democrats were happy to help as well in a bipartisan way. It was probably one of those times, it's a rarity in today's politics where you see Democrats and Republicans coming together. And now then you have a Democrat president, a Democrat Speaker of the House, and for all intents and purposes, a Democrat Senate that are doing things that are just incredible. When you look at spending almost $5 trillion since he came in office, it's just insane to see what's going on. And that's why we have inflation where it's at. Not my word as a Republican, but people that worked in the Obama administration, like Larry Summers and Jason Furman, who have said early on, and American people can go look at this at the Bureau of Labor Statistics and go back and look, and when the inflation started, and it started when these Democrats in the House and the Senate and in the White House did the American Rescue Plan last March, and we started seeing the rampant increase in inflation. I think it's important, Tony, if you go back and look at January of last year, of 2021, just last year, inflation was at 1.7%. It's right. Just unbelievable where we're at today.
So what they did is they added fuel to the fire with yet more rescue spending when we were on the tail end of the pandemic. But then this Inflation Reduction Act that the president was crowing about today, that's another $700 billion. How in the world is putting that much more money into the economy reduce inflation when you've got the Fed trying to throttle back the economy?
Well, never in our history, we talk about inflation being as high as it was some 40 years ago. But the fiscal policy today, I think we'd have to go back to 1981 when Ronald Reagan became president and had a strong fiscal policy and saying that we need to cut taxes, we need to put money back in the American people's pocket. Today, you have a president who wants to take money out of the American people's pocket by raising, taxes on corporation, by hiring 87,000 new IRS agents to go out and shake the pocketbooks of American small business and individuals to find all the money he can. All the while, we have the highest revenues in the history of this country at almost $5.1 trillion. Yet we're continuing to spend money like it's going out of style. And even people, when they looked at this long term, even the economic policy advisors of Joe Biden have said the first inkling of we're going to see any inflation reduction could be 2 to 3 years from now. That's an eternity in Washington, D.C.
Well, and soon to be forgotten with the next bill coming along. Congressman Hern, I want to ask you about the CR. It has a hiccup over in the Senate. That's where the action really is at this point because the Republicans can stop it. What is this measure that Joe Manchin has managed to get onto the CR that the Republicans are opposed to?
Well, Joe Manchin was everyone's hero on the Republican side of being the lone holdout. He and Kyrsten Sinema on various attributes of the $3.5 trillion Build Back Better program. And he was a hero. And he said, I'll only pass if I can get some permitting guidelines in there that allows more oil and gas and pipelines in West Virginia, where he's from. However, he made a lot of Democrats mad. And so a lot of people walked away from supporting him. So now he needs some 15 Republicans to support him in the Senate, which they're not happy that $749 billion passed and this scaled down Build Back Better program did. And so now that on the House side, I guess we're going to know here in about 14 minutes or so, 15 minutes, of whether the Senate's going to actually pass his permitting process in the CR. So my guess is that they won't. And so we'll have a CR coming out of the House that we will vote on most likely on Thursday. And we will see how that goes to avert a shutdown, a government shutdown on sometime Friday afternoon or over the weekend. So Joe Manchin is not making it for himself.
Well, let me ask you about Manchin's provision, because he's saying this is going to help our energy situation. So politics aside, is his permitting measure that's on this, would it be helpful to the energy industry?
Well, I actually had an energy roundtable in Tulsa this past Monday, so just yesterday, and talking about this. And everybody knows that just because you change the permitting process doesn't mean you change the passion or the fever that's going on in Washington, D.C. with the administration and the Democrats to go after oil and gas industries. They feel like it's going to continue to be bogged down. Every Republican that's in oil and gas producing states like mine here in Oklahoma or Texas or North Dakota or wherever you may be are not feeling very comfortable with what Joe Manchin has pushed. This was a very self-serving thing that Joe Manchin did. We were all warned that Joe Manchin was doing this for his own purpose because a lot of the pushback on pipelines that he was talking about were done at the state level, which there were no federal purview for. So this is backfiring on Joe Manchin. He's been on numerous TV shows trying to rattle support from the Republicans to get it on board. But I don't think he anticipated as many Democrats walking away. And in the House side, the Progressive Party, the far left wing of the Democrat Party, has said there is no way they're going to support any permitting in the CR coming out of the House. Right. And so we expect to see Nancy Pelosi push a CR out with no permitting in it.
Very quickly, we're up against a break, but is a partial shutdown of government possible? May we see that?
I believe so. Based on how clean they can make this continuing resolution, I think it will be very marginal. They're going to have to pull the permitting out on the House side. I think on the Senate side, they're going to have to push it out, which is going to make a lot of Republicans vote against it. So I think both Schumer and Pelosi are working hard on this.
All right. Kevin Hern, great to see you.